Welcome to our special BlackHat edition of CyberBytes the podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Cooper, co-founder of Aspiron Search. I finally get to sit down with the infamous Ofer Ben-Noon, CEO and co-founder of Talon Cybersecurity. I've seen Ofer at every conference I've attended over the last 18 months, and I've been eagerly awaiting the opportunity to sit down with him since Talon won the RSA Sandbox in 2022. A heartfelt interview with Ofer revealing all about enterprise security browsers and what's happened in the last 12 months.
Introducing Ofer Ben-Noon, CEO and co-founder at Talon. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you. Just in yesterday. When did you get here?
Yeah, just arrived yesterday here in Vegas.
Good man. You're a bit of a jet setter. I saw you was at the Merlin Ventures Safari 2 weeks or so ago.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was an amazing event. Actually, what Merlin have done was phenomenal. Like bringing top CISOs together in a very open atmosphere, bringing fantastic entrepreneur scene. It was an amazing event.
Yeah. How many folks were there? Was it all of the Merlin portfolio then?
I think we were about 40 people in total, I want to say.
Yeah, nice. And it was Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Good man. Well, look, Ofer, thanks for coming on, mate. Obviously, look, I've been really excited to have you on. I've obviously seen Talon everywhere over the last couple of years. But before we get into it with all my guests, I'd just go right back to where it all began and how you got into the game, mate.
So it's interesting. Ohad and I know each other for a long time. Like we served together, audit 8200 somewhere there in 2006. And he returned to Israel somewhere in I want to say March 2000, April 2020, sorry, coming from pandemic.
Yep.
So returning home, and we kind of returned to be in contact. And he said, you know, I'm looking to start a new startup. I'm looking for co-founders again.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just couldn't resist the opportunity to work with him again. One of by far the smartest, nicest, most capable technical co-founders in the world of cybersecurity in Israel for sure. And both of us are big fans of blue oceans, like with the understanding that if you really want to build a new category, something that is going to impact the world, you probably want to be in a situation that this is an innovative thing that is only now enabled. Both either that it's a technology enabled that just took place or a need that wasn't there before. Because at every single point there are hundreds of cyber teams around the world that are looking at every single area. And that's why in many cases you have so many companies that are in the same area, because some say, okay, it's a nice idea, and then you have tons of companies going into this area. But if you really want to be in a situation that you are building a category, something that is going to be radically different, and it's a situation that no one have done it already for 5 years, it has to be something that otherwise wouldn't be applicable just, let's say, 2 years before. And here we're in a really unique situation. So we're then in June 2020, 3 months into the pandemic, and there were two things that happened pretty much in parallel. One, the world of hybrid workforce, it was clear that it's pretty much here to stay. And the second area was when Chromium, the open source layer underneath Chrome, and then Edge became a de facto standard because Microsoft moved Edge from the proprietary code into Chromium. So you had the technology enablement, and then you also had the need that wasn't really there prior to pandemic to say, I want to be able to really be able to enable any type of worker, employee, contractor from any location, the office, home, cafe shop, from any type of device, managed, unmanaged, bring your own device, and to give the same security device posture for all of these unique conditions while accessing the corporate data. So these two combined were kind of the no-brainer. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. But it's such a different category to what you, so for the audience, your previous startup, so Argos Cybersecurity.
Yeah, I would say it's interesting because So first, my background have been IT cybersecurity for 8 years in 8200.
Yep.
So really came from this world. But the same thing happened with Argus. So when we found Argus, the logic was we want to solve a futuristic problem where we can really build a category, make an impact. And when we started, it was November of 2013. At the time, there were pretty much no connected cars. You had only General Motors with the OnStar. All of the rest of the time, it was just in the planning, and cyber was definitely not there at that point. So really being able to come up with an innovative idea for a problem that is going to become enormous was the opportunity that we looked at Argus, but it's the same that we looked here. And the other area, it's all about mobility.
Yeah.
So if you think about the distributed workforce, it's all about the mobile workforce and how you are supporting the access. It's not different when you are thinking about the challenge of connected cars, and not so different from what Ohad, my co-founder, has done with Lacoon before, which is the first EDR for smartphones. So I would say these areas are really kind of somehow
you think vehicle
connected.
security, then like enterprise security browser, like it's different, but yeah. Fair. Okay, interesting.
The technology was very different, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was at DEF CON last year, and the car hacking village was like my favourite by a mile. They had a Tesla in there, and the guys were just like up to no good, but it was a good experience. So you mentioned that your co-founder was like the smartest, most technical guy that you've ever met, and I was on your LinkedIn and doing a bit of research, and I saw quite a heartfelt LinkedIn post about a certain gentleman that passed away. I just wanted to ask about who that man was to you and why he was so inspiring for you as a mentor. Who was that?
So Zohar Zisapel is actually my stepfather. So he was. So my mother and Zohar are dating. Were dating for the last 14 years.
Yeah.
He is also probably the father of the Israeli entrepreneurship scene. So started about 30 companies to date. 8 were taken public in the Nasdaq. 9 were sold. The others are still growing privately. Invested in probably north of 300 startups.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate and lucky enough to have him as my mentor for this entrepreneurship journey from the early days of Argus. Probably all of the smarter decisions that I took were after consulting with him, especially in the early days where entrepreneur, everything is new to you, right? From when do you bring the first seller, when do you start to invest in marketing, how do you look at your patent portfolio, when do you need to have a big office or small office, up to very small things. Hey, do you think it's legitimate to have a company-wide trip that will cost that and that amount in that stage of the company? How does it feel for the employees? How does it feel for the investors? Like from big and strategic decisions to very small ones. And I think having the ability to have such a mentor was amazing.
It comes up a lot in the pods actually, how having a mentor is so important for founders and entrepreneurs.
Dramatic.
I love that. Great. Thanks for sharing that. So, Talon, we was in the lift a minute ago, and somebody saw your shirt and said that they use you guys. Can you give some case studies or real life examples? Because that was quite refreshing to hear. He obviously didn't know who you was, but that was even nicer, I think. Can you give any like case studies or real life examples of how people are implementing it, and particularly with like some of the stuff that's coming out now, like?
It's interesting from a situation that probably 12 months ago we had no customers or virtually no customers, to situations that we're having now many dozens, adding 1 or 2 customers per week. It's very different how this category is starting to ramp up. The feedback that we're getting is enormous. In that specific customer, the use case is pretty much becoming the enterprise browser. So they look at all of their employees and devices as pretty much unmanaged. So this is the core of the security on their infrastructure. So instead of having so many tools on this endpoint, from a unified endpoint management through DLP, through the network security, the CASB, the anti-phishing, the isolation of the data, the full disk encryption. Instead, Talon is doing all of that for them. So it completely simplifies the security stack, but really increasing the bar of the security dramatically. Actually, this customer have done a very, very competitive bake-off between all of the leading players, and chose Talon. One of actually the most security savvy CISOs in the industry. So it was a really good feeling to be able to show the capabilities and to prove ourselves worthy.
Talking about good feeling, what about when you won the RSA Sandbox last year? It was last year, wasn't it? How was that?
This was a dream of mine. I have to tell you, it's kind of when you start a company in the world of security, and you're thinking, okay, there are these few goals to say, if only I could achieve this, I would be the happiest person in the world. Most likely that winning in RSA Innovation Sandbox would be at the top 3, right?
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable, right? Because it was a dream from day one. My first marketeer that joined the company, she said we said it the first day, what are the goals for that needs to be achieved? She told me, the first thing you say, we need to win RSA Innovation Sandbox. That's how it happens. And it's from a situation that you're saying it's a dream, but when it happens, it's phenomenal, because there's no bigger appreciation or technical and business testimony than winning the Innovation Sandbox. And then you look at like the people in front of you, if that's Chris Young or Shlomo or these people that they've seen everything in the world of security, and I say, this is the future.
Talking about it is, mate, and well, congrats from last year, mate. That's when I think I really started to see Talon, when I just saw like the press releases just going wild. So it's great to see that the last 12 months the trajectory is going great for you, and long may it continue. Talking about the future, obviously ChatGPT, we've got to bring it up. What are you guys doing, or have you got anything in the suite of products to sort of combat that? 'Cause I saw like some guy from Samsung, I think, put some source code in there, and like some crazy stuff's been happening.
It's interesting. So we're all very focused on ChatGPT because it's one of the more famous ones, right? But there are hundreds today of generative AI tools, or probably even thousands by now. And to be able to track each one of them, what data goes in, what data is copied from there into your organization, are there challenges around the IP or privacy? It's a very complex task. Like, you cannot have a tool that will now pretty much cover these 1,000 services. It's a huge challenge, right? And most of them today are consumed via the browser. So of course you have some that you're consuming via APIs that are connecting to your development infra, etc. But everything that is consumed via the browser, that is probably, I don't know, 95%. The opportunity is run all of the DLP tools via the browser, instead of covering each one of them from the outside of the browser. And what we have built around the generative AI platform is a few things. First, there is the compliance requirement to say, hey, dear employee, before you are using this role, accept the policy of the organization. Make sure that you are familiar with that. After that the employee understand, okay, what's expected. The second stage is what services do we allow in our organization, which not. So the ability to pick and choose which one are the more secure, which are the less, which are we feel are enterprise grade versus more of a university project, right? So it's not that all of them are identical, right? At the end of the day, all of them are SaaS services, right? So just like you are not bringing in any SaaS service to your organization, it's just additional SaaS services. And to make sure that the company that is providing this service, do they have SOC 2 Type 2? Are they very security savvy company? Like, who is this provider? What do we know? How they use our data? Are we comfortable with their data policy? Is the data training the model or not? Right. So that's about picking which one we agree to and which one we do not want to agree to have in our company. The next one is based on the compliance of what can be copied in or from. Then the browser DLP package essentially enforcing this. So you're now trying to put a social security number of various, just copy pasting in. They will say, hey, we do not allow copying a credit card number or social security number or code into these services. If you want to put it in a generative AI service, this one is the one that we allow to input social security number, because potentially it's internal AI network for the organization and everything is in the cluster, so this is legitimate. But on external service, no. So you can pick and choose what you allow to have or not and what not, and the browser is actually the ideal choke point for all of it.
Great. What's the future for Talon, mate?
What's the future?
Where are we taking it?
In the previous company, Argus, we've been able to protect 60 million vehicles. And at the time I said 60 million families that we improve their life. I do now 2x, 10x. It's all about how do you bring the most amount of impact to simplify the life of people, to make it more secure, and to make the people more productive and happy. And I think the platform of the enterprise browser is ideal to achieve exactly that. So it's all about bringing value and moving, I would say, as fast as determined to achieve these goals. Let's see.
Well, I wish you all the best, my man. Thanks for coming on the pod.
Thank you, my friend.
That was wicked.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspiron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspironsearch.com.